often seen as a battle between just Jews and Arabs. But there are Christians here too. And, as I found, in the crazy world of Christian politics, there may just be a solution to one of the city's biggest problems. Every Easter, thousands of foreign Christians travel to Jerusalem to witness the Passion of Christ. In huge parades through the Old City, they relive the central story of Christianity, the last days of Jesus, when he was arrested, paraded through the streets, and crucified. But today, Jerusalem's Palestinian Christians are in crisis. Their numbers are dwindling, their power is waning, and they are riven by scandal. 2 years ago, the largest Palestinian Christian denomination in Jerusalem, the Greek Orthodox Church, was struck by a devastating scandal. It involved the selling of prime Palestinian land to Jewish developers. The secret sale of one of the old city's most prominent landmarks, the Imperial Hotel.
So, Mr. Jari, what's been done here? Tell me the story of what happened with this hotel.
You know, unfortunately, I woke up, it was on March 18th, 2000, I got a phone call from the Israeli broadcast and saying, Mr. Dajani, had a glass of water and sit down. And then he told me, your hotel has been sold. I said, what? He said, yes, this is the latest Ma'arif issue. Go down and buy the newspaper. So I went down and bought the newspaper, and there was the big mention that this has been sold, along with 18 shops. The deal was done in such a way, a secret of the way, that nobody knew about it.
The Greek Orthodox Church is one of Jerusalem's biggest property owners. But for its Palestinian congregation, the sale of any church land to Israelis is regarded as treason.
This patriarch is a betrayer. I told him now, when Judas betrayed Christ, he went and committed suicide. He should go and commit suicide too.
After the scandal broke in 2005, Mr. Dajani discovered that his secret buyers were a group of religious Jews.
And so they went, how may I say it, behind your back?
Yes.
To the Greek Orthodox Church?
Yes. So they've been after this property 10 years now, trying to get it from the Dajani family.
Corruption involved?
There must be somebody, you know, who sells his soul for a few pennies. I think it was corruption, and I think now the Interpol is after him to get him to tell the real story.
A former church employee is now wanted for embezzlement, and with accusations of the irresponsible mishandling of church property, the patriarch himself was deposed. But this scandal was not just about the selling of land. There were other, more fundamental issues involved. The hierarchy of the Greek Orthodox Church is almost exclusively Greek, whereas its congregation are Palestinian Arabs. For the last 100 years, they have been trying to take control of what they regard as their church and prevent the selling of any more Palestinian land.
The people who are controlling the patriarchate behaves as a national group, as a race group, that they are Greek and this is a Greek heritage and they should secure it. We just want to have our rights in this patriarchate, to be represented in this patriarchate. And also, we need this patriarchate to be a part of the situation in Palestine. And this church should be for the people, and the people here are suffering.
In August 2005, in an attempt to resolve the crisis, a new patriarch was appointed. He has agreed to meet me.
We have been struggling since more than 100 years. So I want you to ask him this question. He has promised us, since he was elected, that he will do changes in this patriarchate. But nothing happened. He promised us. Now 2 years. So if you can ask him this question,
Patriarch, thank you very much for seeing me today. I'm very grateful to you for giving me your time.
Good also.
And do you find it understandable that some of your Palestinian congregation really believe that to have a vast majority of your congregation Palestinian and only a tiny proportion of the large number of senior clergy, not a single Palestinian, they're all Greek? Do you find that strange? Would you like to see that change?
No, it's not. There is nothing strange. On the contrary, we have brothers here from. We have a good number of brothers from the locals. Now we have a bishop, and there was another one who passed away.
Amongst
and,
how many? How many would there be in total?
In total, it's 18.
Out of 18, one Palestinian.
That's right. Yes.
You don't understand the feeling of concern in the congregation that there aren't more Palestinians in the senior clergy, that they're all
This
Greeks.
is not the problem. The problem is...
They think it's the problem.
No, I don't think so.
Well, I can tell you, I've spoken to some. They certainly think it's a problem.
Well, it is said like this, but I don't think that this is the problem. We are working on this.
So,
we have already started.
Forgive me, but can you give me some idea? Is it 1 year, 2 years, 5 years?
No. It's
a millennium?
No, come on. It's very soon. We are working on this.
Within a year or so, do you think?
Less than that.
Less than that?
Of course.
Some of your flock are saying to me that they're very unhappy at the way that the land from the Patriarchate has been managed, particularly since Israelis came here in 1967, and that these balances should be public, they should be transparent.
Of course it must be done. Well, this is why, not yet, because I don't have full numbers. We are in the process now just to present the revenues and the expenses, etc., because it is very important. Don't forget that this was what has happened. It was part of the crisis of the Patriarchate.
So you think the moral image of the Patriarchate has been damaged in this process?
A lot. There was a great damage done to the image of the Patriarchate.
Corruption? Was there corruption?
Well, it was part of it.
There was corruption?
Of course there was corruption. That's right, yes.
Right at the heart of Christian Jerusalem is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the place where Jesus Christ is said to have died, been buried, and then rose from the dead. For the last 1600 years, control of this church has been fought over by rival Christian groups. In an attempt to stop the violence, in 1767, the Ottoman rulers issued a decree establishing a status quo that divided the church between the various groups. Father Athanasius is a Franciscan monk who monitors this agreement for the Catholics.
There are altogether 6 churches involved in the status quo. There are 5 that have rights within the church, and there's 1 church that has rights on the roof.
But the status quo itself froze the situation at a given point in time.
Exactly.
That situation having been previously decided by the Sultan in Constantinople.
It wasn't previously decided by the Sultan. What happened was the churches themselves were fighting over control of various shrines. At some stage or another, one church would have prevailed. Mm-hmm. For instance, this area here behind us, called the Arches of the Virgin, we claimed that, and the Greeks claimed it. What happened was the Greeks gained control of it.
There was real fighting? I mean, physical,
there was some physical fighting,
violence.
yes.
Between the monks?
Between the monks.
Wow. Anybody injured?
There have been injuries, yes.
Killed?
Not that I know of.
Today, this status quo agreement is epitomized by an ancient ladder perched on a balcony above the church's entrance.
This was used as a balcony. You see, in times in which I think you couldn't enter or exit the church without paying taxes to the Muslim authorities, the Armenians would come out onto this balcony to get a bit of air. So the Armenians keep the ladder there, I think, is proof that niche is there.
So this rather curious and untidy ladder outside is there to say this is an Armenian balcony.
Exactly.
The status quo agreement is an extraordinary, bizarre, and sometimes ridiculous system. But amazingly, it actually seems to have worked, and for the last 240 years.
for all the fact that, it may seem odd, for managing holy real estate, it works as a system.
There are occasional problems. There are things that are difficult to resolve. But large parts of this church, there's no disagreement.
But can what operates here, in this church, provide a clue as to how to solve Jerusalem's biggest, bloodiest and most intractable problem of all? Who controls the Temple Mount? The Haram al-Sharif. Right in the center of Old Jerusalem is a plot of land that is at the heart of the city's holiness and the source of its modern-day hell. For Jews, it is known as the Temple Mount, the site of the original Jewish temple built by Solomon over 3,000 years ago, rebuilt by King Herod, and destroyed by the Romans, a place Jews pray to every day. For Muslims, it's the Haram al-Sharif, where the Prophet of Heaven. It was the original Muslim direction of prayer, and it contains the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, one of the 3 holiest places in Islam. But for the last 40 years, Palestinians and Israelis have waged a bitter battle for control of this holy site. A solution to its future is Jerusalem's most intractable problem.
If the world wants peace, they will have to tell the Arabs that they can worship all they want, but that the Temple Mount belongs to Jerusalem, and Jerusalem belongs to the Jewish nation.
Every single stone of the Al-Aqsa Mosque belongs to Muslims, Arabs and Palestinians. Ownership and sovereignty. The Jews have no right to install any religious material in that place under the pretext of a Jewish religious claim.
Trying to separate nationality and religion has become increasingly difficult over the intervening 40 years. On the Muslim side, Islam has increasingly replaced nationalism as a defining ideology even among Palestinians, such that the site has become a symbol for both Islam and for Palestinian nationalism. It's become a site that's more and more a flashpoint for tension between Israelis and Palestinians.
The Jews attack the Muslims! In the prayer, they attack in the prayer!
On the 9th of February 2007, the latest episode in this 40-year battle broke out, when an Israeli bulldozer began to excavate an ancient ramp leading up to one of the holy site's gates. The Mughrabi ramp contains the last remains of the Moroccan quarter, destroyed by the Israelis within days of their conquest of the city in 1967. Ever since, they have claimed it is a part of the city's expanded Jewish quarter. In February 2004, the ramp partially collapsed, and the Israelis decided to replace it.
Why has there been all the trouble over this?
Okay, the trouble, we have to understand that any actions by Israeli in this area, in Jerusalem, especially when we are close to the Temple Mount, make a lot of noise. They said we are digging under the Temple Mount. And as you see, we are very far from the Temple Mount. Of course, we never dig under the Temple Mount, and we don't have any plan to dig. So this is the first thing we have to make it clear.
When the Mughrabi ramp controversy first started, Adnan Husseini was the manager of the Waqf, the Muslim authority responsible for Haram al-Sharif.
The Israelis say to me, all we're doing is repairing the ramp, and there is no danger here.
Why they wanted to repair the ramp? What's the problem with the ramp?
Because they say it's falling down.
Because it's dangerous?
That's what they say.
Yani, to repair a ramp, a historic ramp, which has more than 1,500 years of historic traces, we take it with 4 bulldozers from the day that they started, or they bring some engineers to consolidate it in a way or other.
The Muslim authorities claim the ramp was built on land owned by an Islamic charity, and as such is part of the Al-Aqsa Mosque itself.
Before the starting of the excavations, there was official letters sent to the Israeli authority that we are against this. This is very dangerous. We will have a reaction in the country. We have reaction in the region. It is an attack against the mosque. It is the entrance to the mosque. Stop it. Don't do it. And we warn them, officially.
Did you consult with the Waqf, the Islamic authorities on the Haram al-Sharif, the Temple Mount, before you started doing this?
Everybody knew about the government planning to build here something new.
But that's different from consulting you, isn't it?
As I told you, everybody knew. And when I said everybody, it's not just
it didn't happen.
Everybody knew.
Since Israel's conquest of the city, the Haram al-Sharif is the only part of Jerusalem over which the Palestinians retain any element of control. So it has become the symbol of their 40-year struggle against the Israeli occupation.
If you're worried, why not accept their invitation to go and see what they're doing?
Yani somebody is destructing my history, and they wanted me to see this destruction in my eyes. What kind of mentality is this?
I don't think that's the case.
And he's not inviting me to a restaurant.
I have some knowledge of divided cities, Belfast, Sarajevo, where you have similar problems. I tell you what would have happened there. They would have had a